I'm trying to get their presentation so that it can be available to you. First Global Bank. I'm trying to see if we can have a relationship with First Global in terms of the car loan facility, which I'll talk about in a little while, but also in terms of the other products that they have. Currently rates are trending down, but we are joined at the hip with the credit union for the car loan facility, which is disenfranchising a lot of us, and I will explain later. NCB also has some competitive rates, which they wanted to make available to us as members. And we're looking at having a membership program so that once you're a member of Utasa, and we're exploring that program, once you're a member of Utasa and you have your membership card, which we're working on, that you'll be able to benefit from certain products and facilities, both at the banks and other retail outlets and so on. All right, that said, in October last year, we've had some serious challenges, not least of which is a matter that was raised by member Howard last year. Utasa had no financial statements. In fact, we did not know where we were in terms of our financials. To this point, the new executive is not signing on the bank accounts, and that was a decision that I took because I wanted to ensure that we knew where we were with our financials before I took over the accounts. So the past president and the other signatories are the ones still signing on our bank account. Of course, I review the transactions before the checks are drawn. So we've had a lot of back office stuff to do. Our General Secretary, Ms. Sherpa Buchanan, limited office within weeks of being elected. She went off on maternity.
It was grievance and not General Secretary.
The former General Secretary limited office shortly after being elected as grievance for this executive. There was no transition, no handing over of records or files as General Secretary. And so the better part of the year was spent trying to find information. You would have seen that at the last meeting there were no minutes. The minutes that were taken at last year's AGM, well, there weren't minutes. There were some jottings which we had to reconstruct. And so the whole thing was a mess, capital M-E-S-S. So the better part of this year was spent trying to tidy up, get things on a level that we could say, okay, this is where we are and this is how we're going to proceed. So now you would have received a link that would point you to some minutes. I know they're going to have to be amended. No? But that's the best we could do based on what we had to work from. The financial statements, I am happy to say, I took that as a major objective of this first year. We are 98% complete. Anthony is not here, he's on leave and he's out of town on a personal matter, so he should have been here to present the report. However, I have a PowerPoint presentation. Now, we engaged some auditors, and Anthony did a lot of the in-house work so that we avoided the cost of having to have the accountants prepare the accounts and so on. So, with the help of Annette and Olivine, we got the information together and gave it to the auditors so that they could do the audit. Now, each year has been qualified because we can't find some of the documentation, right? The transactions were approved and everything, but the auditors need the supporting documentation to say, yes, it's so it goes. You with me? Hello? Yes. So, a few of the years have been qualified. We are now doing the last year, and we hope to have we have the draft statements. We hope to have the final statements come the end of this year, December. And I'm holding Anthony and the auditors to that, so that you can have the financial statements in your hand. Okay? I'm not going to present the draft now. I'm not an accountant. I would want Anthony to do that. But in as far as he's giving us a presentation, I would probably go through that if you're interested. So that's the status in a nutshell. The other factor activities for the year, well, you can have 3 halves. The third half was spent fighting with management in terms of governance issues in the university. UTech is structured based on an act of parliament. There are ordinances and statutes. Very earlier on in my administration, we had sent out the UTech Act to members and the ordinances and asked that you read them. You don't need to know your rights, and a lot of those rights reside in those documents. But management is not paying attention to what is there. Management is doing what management is doing. And so we spent the better part of the year fighting to say, this is what it said, this is how it should be done, this is what you should be doing. And we've been getting a lot of pushback. You would have heard the current acting president say over and over and over, he's not into managing by committee. He does not believe in management by committee. And so he's doing what he's doing, ignoring what is structured. And so we have a lot of back council meetings start at 12 o'clock and go on until 8 o'clock. And we are there, fighting on almost every single solitary point. Is Mariam in the room? She can attest to that because she attends council. And so it's not been an easy ride. I didn't think it would be, but what I would want from you members is your support and your participation. I don't believe in the cascas in the open space, and I prefer to have my facts before I speak or before I write. And I prefer to write because when it's documented, amnesia can't affect what is there. Right? So, in a very nutshell, that has been our ride for this year. We, and you would have heard in other meetings, we tabled the heads of agreement in March. The final document was sent in April. We had agreed then that there were 6 matters outstanding from the 2012-14 period. And we agreed, at my suggestion, the ministry agreed, and UTEC agreed not to treat them as part of the 15-17 negotiations. Because there were things that UTEC management should have done, and they were not pursued to do it. And it's not easy, because even when the former executive would have made overtures to get matters attended to, management's pushback or just management's inertia, it is difficult to get through to get anything done, right? Even when you have the right and it's there staring them in the face. You would have seen on Monday the foolishness that Dr. Horace Williams put out on the broadcaster. Even though the circular at item 5 says the increased traveling rates are payable in November, implemented in November. When I saw the thing, trust me, I called the ministry and I was told by both the compensation director and the IR director that they're really tired of UTEC and the foolishness. Nobody there spoke to Dr. Williams. Nobody could tell me who spoke to Dr. Williams to tell him what he wrote. And so they wrote again, in response to my email, that UTEC is to honor the edict by government, from government, that the new traveling rates are payable in November. The retro amount, because remember it's implemented from April, the retro amounts, government still has not said when that will be paid. And you will recall just yesterday, the Civil Service Association was on the news demonstrating about the same thing. So, what is he trying to do? To discredit Utasa? And this is not the first time Dr. Williams has done that. And we are still saying Dr. Williams does not belong in HR. We are still pushing for that. We wrote again to the Ministry of Labor, and we're waiting to be called. We're told that a meeting is to be arranged because both the Ministries of Finance and Labor are fed up with UTEC. They are so fed up with UTEC. When I called, where are you calling from? UTEC. And you can hear the pause. But I don't care. Them will listen to me. Right? So we have those things in training. Now, in terms of the heads of agreement, we should have had a meeting on Tuesday morning. It was agreed with the director of IR, which I had a lengthy discussion with. She agreed to take over the negotiations. And so UTEC again is going to be an anomaly, because instead of the back and forth where we meet with ministry and UTEC and we play the tennis, The Ministry of Finance has now agreed that they will lead the negotiations because they're tired of UTEC. They have written several letters to UTEC asking for UTEC's financial statements for the last 3 years, the wage bill, and the projected wage bill. And UTEC only 2 weeks ago presented something that, quote unquote, the ministry can use. That's what I was told. And so they agreed to have a meeting with Utasa on Tuesday morning gone. On Monday afternoon, I received a call to say they are postponing the meeting because they need to do some back office work before they can entertain us. And I used that opportunity because since they are back out, you have someone you want. So I asked if I could amend the heads of agreement. Because remember, we had the clarification meeting in March. And once it's clarified and submitted, I was told that it could not be amended. They agreed for us to amend the HOAs. We have made a few amendments. A few members have written asking for certain things which I've now put in the heads of agreement. One of which, we're asking for an adjustment in the car loan ceiling. It was at 2 million. We asked for it to be adjusted to 3 million. And you know, government says all staff loans should be 3% or less. Members recommended that instead of, because some people don't want to buy a car, some people want to buy a little house, or fix up them house, or do some improvement to some asset. And so we've now included in the HOA another line item, which is going to be called an asset improvement loan. It's the same 3 million at 3%, but it's not for car loan. The car loan thing is still there, right? And I've had discussions with Utasa, who is putting the same thing in their HOA. So at the very least, we're saying the same thing in that, on that matter. The other thing has to do with the daycare facility. The daycare currently is not readily available to staff. And in doing our research, we were told that the daycare was set up for students. And so they're only granting us a favor when they take our babies. So in the claim that was clarified before, we had asked to be allowed greater access. And now we're asking for a facility to be made available to us 7 days a week. We can't work 7 days a week, right? 7 days a week based on the flexi time work model that government has now brought into being. So that amendment is there. What was the third one? The asset. The daycare. What was the third one, Marvin? Okay, can you see it? Yes. All right, the third thing was to reinstate the 6 things that were omitted from the 12-14. Okay. Some members complained that they've not been receiving their increments at each anniversary. HR was to research and get back to us. They have not done that. Transportation for staff who have to work at the satellite campuses. Subscriptions to professional associations, which UTEC has said no, they're not paying for you to improve your skills. The provision of book grants. It's at 100%. Okay, the review of Utasa's proposal on tuition for staff and dependents. We were advised by some members that you're not getting the 70%. We're going to get on the 70% or 75%. It's in the claim. So for the persons who did not benefit in the last go round, that they should be able to get it retroactively for their dependents. And the performance incentive scheme, which should have been rolled out in March this year, we're asking for that to be put in place so that persons can be recognized for their performance. Now, in terms of the salaries, we know based on what has happened with the other institutions, government is not going to even look at this 15% that we have in there. And in fact, in my conversation with the ministry, they have recommended that we agree to the 4% because we're not going to get any more than that. So I need to know from you if you are okay with that. We had claimed 15% in both years, but based on the IMF and all of us happening, it's going to be limited to 4%. We're asking for this to be done, a review of positions of the administrative levels 1 through 7 and other administrative posts. Come here.
That's it. Try one.
is at a B. 1B, 2B, 3B. How do you get on to A? I don't know. And when I ask in HR, I can't be told either. The traveling allowance, we want to know. For the traveling allowance, we want to know members. We want to know how traveling is awarded. How is it classified? I received the listing and everybody is a traveling officer. All who not have traveling in a job description. All who not traveling. And so, and persons who need to travel for their jobs are not getting traveling and are told to submit travel pattern and prove what they do and whatever. Full upkeep and mileage for level 7 to 8. We're asking for that to be addressed as well. Duty concession. Now the government has a policy. If you're not a traveling officer, you can't access the duty concession. And so we're asking for persons who are level 7 and 8 who have to travel to be allowed to access that, because I'm told some people don't have access to that benefit. A location allowance for our colleagues who have to work outside of the Papine campus, and also for their traveling. So we're asking that they be given $10,000 a month as a subsidy. The bus service again is a sore point. So we want improvements in that. The training, employee development and training and recognition. As I said, membership in the various associations to be paid for by the university. And these are just naming a few. I'm sure there are others that we don't have in there. But whereas we have listed some, we're not arguing for the item to be limited to these associations. The principle is we are an education institution and there are other entities to which we are affiliated, and we're asking for the university to pay membership so that we can improve our skills and our networking capabilities, which will redound to the benefit of the university. I spoke about the asset improvement loan. This is not exiting, but existing. How do you spell that? Yes. The book grant. Some people get, some people don't get. Again, we don't know how it is assigned. Some admin staff get book grant, some people don't. Some admin, people, I do not write what I do not have information on. Right? My level is a director. I'm a level 10. I don't get book grant. There are people who are level 9 that get book grant. Spoke about the tuition for staff and dependents. We're asking for a 75% increase in this for staff studying at UTech. You can read what's there, right? Yeah. And the performance incentive program, which was agreed from 2008, still is not implemented by UTech, and so we're asking for that to be implemented. Remember that persons received awards for that. The software and all of that. Yeah, Cheryl? I'm not hearing you. For staff studying outside of the UK?
Yes.
Okay, there are persons who are employed in certain areas in UTEC that can't study at UTEC. So exams, records, admissions, not admissions, exams and records. They can't study at UTEC, and persons in Mrs. Dean's office, in that division. And because they can't study at UTEC, they don't benefit from the fee discount that people studying at UTEC would get. So we're asking for that benefit to be given to them because by constraint they can't study here. So we're asking for that. Maybe waiver is not the term, but we can fight over it when we get to ministry. If you have a better suggestion. No. And not necessarily what they were doing, working on. Yes. Yes. In fact, I tried to find the email and I wasn't finding it. It's probably archived. So, yeah, I did remember and I meant to come back to you. I said earlier it was fortuitous that they postponed the meeting so that I could use that as a chip to add things. So if members have ideas or you want to contribute,